chargers for the Mark IV and for the Mark II Ruger pistols. So these are the two different chargers that I'm working on this morning. This one's for the Mark IV, and this one is for the Mark II. So you can see they're slightly different. Mostly the way that they clamp down is different because the bolts are both different on that. But what I'm going to be doing this morning is I'm going to be tapping the holes for these. So the tap operation is pretty much the same on both of them. I'm going to tap all of the Mark IV parts first, and then I'm going to reset my tap depth, and I'll tap all of the Mark IIs. So I'm going to get going here and tap these. I'll give you a look at my tapping operation, set up the camera, and then I'll get going with the tapping. So bear with me a sec. Okay, we're back looking at these. These are my chargers all set up, ready to go. My finger loop 2s and my finger loop 4 chargers. So the next thing we're going to be doing is the tap operation. I'll kind of walk you through the tapping as we go along. Okay, what we're looking at here is a Tapmatic little tapping machine that I use. This is a small one. This is called a number 30. They make, but this one works extremely well for the Z on the small milling machine that I'm using here. So I tap quite a few of these parts by hand, and the last 300 or 400 that I've done, I've used this little tapping machine. It's called Tapmatic. It's really, really nice. And I'll get tapping here and show you how it works. Okay, these are the parts that I'm going to be tapping. These are my Mark IV chargers, and I've drilled all the holes, done all the counter boring, counter sinking from exactly the same position that I'm at right now. So as I start tapping, everything's going to be lined up. I have a stop set, and I've never changed the stop. I'll be using a little bit of oil when I tap. This tap that I'm using is called a forming tap. Some people call it a roll form, but it just really works great. It taps right straight through. No need to back up. You just pull down on the handle and tap, and there you go. It's done. So those of you that have done a little bit of tapping in your time, you can really appreciate how quick this guy works. You can't see that very well because the zoom on this camera is terrible, but I'm tapping 3/4 of an inch deep, and I've tapped all the way through this part, so works pretty nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap a few of them, kind of give you an idea how the tapping procedure works, kind of let you kind of get a feel for it yourself, and then we'll move on. So at this point you can see we've done 3 parts, and the goal is going to be to go ahead and finish 82 parts, so I got a little ways to go. What I'm doing right now is setting them up. As I say, there's a stop already set, so it's real nice. I just move up to that stop, drop in, tap my hole. I've made a little special adapter for this tap so I can get through all the way through this part. I had to extend it a little bit because I'm tapping altogether a little over 1.5 inches deep. So the way it works is I've got a stop set here, so when I come down to the stop, that's where the tapping machine knows when to stop, and then it just stops. Then I reverse it by hand. I think you got a little look at my oil I was using there. I've got a real nice tapping oil that I use. It's called A9. Those of you that haven't tried it yet, it's not terribly expensive. A little bottle like this, about 16, 17 bucks, but it's really nice stuff. This particular tap, it likes oil, so I like to keep it pretty wet. This will be probably the first time I've been checking my time on this, kind of get an idea how fast they go, but you know, you can see you're looking at real time right now, so this tapping procedure goes pretty darn slick. I move back a little bit so you can kind of see the whole operation going on. I'll let you watch a few more. Then I think you kind of get tired of looking at it, but I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun for me because I've tapped several thousand of these parts before I started using this little tapping head. I really enjoy it. I could say this is the A9 tapping fluid or cutting fluid. Great product. I just like to blow that hole out a little bit before I start tapping. You never know. I've had a few operations that I did to this part, so there's always a chance I could have a chip hung up in there, and I don't need that. So now, just to be on the safe side, I shoot a little air into each one of them before I tap. So this is kind of how it goes. This is a small machine that I'm using, my mill. I've got not a heck of a lot of Z travel, but using a little tapping head like this, it's all I could ask for. It's really a nice attachment. I know it's going to get a lot of use. I could have bought a bigger tapping head, but if I've got to drill and tap some holes that are bigger, I mean I know how to tap them, so it's not that big of a deal. But when I make these little finger loop chargers, I tend to make a couple hundred of them at a time, so it really comes in handy for me when I've got all this repetitive tapping going on. The taps themselves that I'm using are a little bit more expensive than a standard twist tap. My standard taps that I was using, the 832 taps, were about $3.50, $4 for a good tap. And the taps that I'm using here, the good tap is about $30. But I really expect that I'll get the money back on it. I know I'll get it back in the labor time, but I'm also going to get it back in the wear time too, because I've already tapped about 200 or 300, maybe 400 parts with this same tap, and I expect to tap several hundred more. With my twist taps, I used to stop. I used to only tap 200, and like I say, I've already pretty much doubled that with this tap, and it's still cutting really good. I mean, it's not even attempting to slow down. So I try to keep, when I'm doing the tapping, I try to keep everything kind of close together. You can see I've got, on the right-hand side, I've got my parts that haven't been tapped, and then on my left-hand side, I've got the parts that I have tapped. So I just go from one box to another. I'm not throwing around a lot of chips or anything, so it's kind of pretty easy just to pick one up, move over, set it down, pick up another one. I'll just tap a few more of them. I think you've probably seen everything you want to see, and then I'll go ahead and finish them up. I'll give myself a little time check when I get done. I had some music playing in the background when I first did this. It just sounded terrible, so I decided to do a little voiceover. So you're not listening to my terrible taste in music. Also, I was getting quite a bit of machine noise and air compressor running and such, so it was a little bit hard to do this video just using my video cam microphone for pickup. I really enjoy this little machine. Well, right now, looks like we finished up 18 parts, so, you know, just the time that you've been watching didn't take too long. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of them, then I'll get back to you. Well, hi. Well, I got all those parts tapped, and of course, didn't check the time really good, but it was close to an hour, and I got looking at them again, and that was actually 84 parts that I did, so, you know, it wasn't too bad at all. So, I'm glad you watched, and what we'll be doing now, I'm gonna move on to the next process, which this part here is what I use for a sample part. I check a lot of things against this particular part, so I've got drawings and numbers and stuff, but a lot of setups. It's really easier just to have a part to set them to. So all my parts, you know, come out looking like this one, or size-wise. Now what I'm going to do on the next operation is I'm going to do this taper that goes on this side here. This part gets set up kind of on an angle like that, and then I'll machine it off, do a taper, which is about a 15-degree taper. So that's the next operation that I'll be doing, and I'll try to capture that on the disc, on the CD or video as well. So thanks for watching the tapping. I hope you liked it, and if you ever get a chance, you ought to get yourself one of those Tapmatics. If you do very much tapping, I mean, you will really enjoy it. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time.